Hello everybody and welcome back to another week of garage maintenance for the Baja G4. Today we're going to be removing the shocks and the wheel alignment rod. So these are some of the tools that we're going to need for today. I have a 4mm Allen key socket. You can use a regular Allen key if you want, but I do just recommend these when you're loosening because of all the Loctite that are on the screws. You will also need a 5mm Allen key socket, and then you will also need a 12mm socket for the torque wrench. The first thing we're going to remove here is the top bolt for the shocks. You're going to use the 4mm Allen key socket, and you're going to need the 12mm socket for the torque wrench. You're going to put one on each side there, and one has to be a different direction from the other. I do recommend doing the loosening with the Allen key, and then you use the torque wrench to keep everything in place so you can loosen it. Once you have the screw removed, I do try to take off those little caps just for better cleaning purposes. It's not necessary, it's just something that I like to do. And now we're going to take off the bottom bolt of the shock. This is just going to be a different angle just to show a better example of removing it from the Allen key side. And then once this is removed, you are going to see that this bolt is a little bit longer than the one at the top, so you can't get those mixed up then when you're putting it back together. If you are having issues getting the bolt out after the screw is removed, this is where I normally would like to have the fastener kit that Baja sells on their website. You can use one of the longer bolts. They do have the same threading as the shorter ones that go onto these, and then you can just use any kind of a hammer. Just be careful you don't have to whack it real hard or anything. Just kind of tap it until the bolt gives in and then slides off of the shock. I know I didn't do what I suggested. This is another way you can do it as well. It's just a little more time consuming and an extra part. I use the smaller screw to kind of get it off a little bit, and after that I end up using a skinny screwdriver to get the rest of it removed. Once you have the shock removed, just be careful when you're removing it. You do have some loose extra caps that are on each side from the top and the bottom. They use that to have the bolts fit more snug to the entire board. So I normally don't clean my shocks until I start putting everything back together, but just for future reference, the top here is the screw cap that you will spin off, and you can remove that spring completely to clean everything then. I normally take a mental measurement. You could also mark it if you wanted to as well, to re-put that cap back to the position that you want it to be in. Alright, now that the shock is out of the way, we're going to remove the wheel alignment rod. We're going to use the 4mm Allen key socket, and we are going to remove the one that is attached to the steering knuckle first. Now that I got that taken care of, just remember there are two washers on the other side of this. If they do get stuck with all the Loctite that's on there, I use a very dull butter knife to kind of wedge those apart, and then you can remove those, and then the bolt's just going to slide right off because there's nothing else supporting it at that point. Okay, now we're going to take off the other side of the wheel alignment rod. This one is going to end up using the 5mm Allen key socket. There is only one washer on the other side of it, and it is a little bit of a tight spot, so this is where that Allen key torque wrench really comes in handy. Once the wheel alignment rod is removed, I don't soak this in anything at all. I tend to use a paper towel, or you could use a regular towel as well, and damp it in either club soda or alcohol, and you can wipe all the gook and stuff off of there. So now I'm just showing the example of you removing the shock from the back side of the board. If you had the G4X, it's going to be the same on both sides, but with the G4, this is the motor side of things. As you can see, I still use the thin Phillips head screwdriver to remove some of the bolts that get stuck. The rear is going to tend to be a little bit more difficult because that's where most of the dirt and stuff's going to kick up and get built up in there. So that's just something to remember. So I was having a hard time removing that cap there. It can tend to get stuck on those sometimes. You could always just use something to pull that out. It is visible on the other side if you can remove one of them. If you're having trouble with both, you can either use a cleaning agent or something to remove some of the gook off of it to loosen it. If you're having problems after that, you could use a butter knife or some sort, or you can just keep them in as well. It's not really a necessary thing. Again, it's just something to make everything a little bit cleaner. So the only thing that's going to be different here in the back when you're doing the wheel alignment rod is you ain't going to be able to get to that other side until you remove the belts and the motor. So we're only going to get rid of the bolt that is attached to the steering knuckle. So these are all the parts that we just removed today. I am going to clean them now. If you do have any questions about any of the removing of the shock or alignment rod that we just did today, let me know in the comments below. I will answer them as best as I can. And then we will see you all next week. Take care, everyone.